Hello, I'm Dr. Brandt Gibson, and I'm so excited to be here because I'm going to give you that third step to writing the new story that will allow you to reach your goals, live your dream, and enjoy an extraordinary life. So as you remember, we're talking about personal GPS, which includes goals, purpose, and story. Setting the right kind of goals, a massive transformative purpose, and rewriting your story so that you can live an extraordinary life. So over the last few videos, we've talked about a couple different things. We talked about the power of the mind. We talked about overcoming ordinary, unleashing the limitless potential. And today we're going to talk about do the impossible. So let me do a quick review, and I'm going to go really fast because I don't want to take too much time on this. But the first one was the overcoming ordinary. And basically what we're doing is teaching you to step out of the ordinary, not try to live in that box of normal, average, and ordinary, but live an extraordinary life. And that's done through this process of going from comfort zone to living with purpose. So you step out of your comfort zone, you overcome fear, you discover yourself, you seize the day so you can live with purpose. So you basically become the individual that is extraordinary, the individual that allows you to step into the extraordinary, reach your goals, live your dream, and enjoy an extraordinary life, right? And then the next piece is to unleash your limitless potential. So often we set limits. We put ourselves in a box like we were talking about earlier, but even you just set limits. You say, okay, I can only go this far. I can only do this much. And you forget the story we told you was about the eagle that was actually an eagle, not a chicken, and it had to realize by looking up at other eagles and not being able to be distracted by the chickens that he truly was extraordinary. He truly was an eagle, and he became that eagle. He unleashed the limitless potential. We did that through a process I was taught by Tony Robbins, where you take your potential, you realize you have potential, you take massive action, start to record those results, and from those results you can change your belief, change your certainty, and you understand that you've got more potential. It allows you to just keep going through this process over and over and over again until you take step after step after step, and before long you look back and you say, I'm doing extraordinary things. I don't really have a limit. I don't really have anything that's going to keep me from succeeding where I want to succeed. And that brings us to the most important step. The most important step is doing the impossible. To really believing that just because something looks like it's impossible doesn't mean you can't do it. The best story about this is the 4-minute mile. For years and years and years, the 4-minute mile was considered impossible. But because of the careful preparation, the careful orchestration of this process, the 4-minute mile was broken. And Roger Bannister stepped into that and broke the 4-minute mile. Within weeks, others were breaking the same thing because they now realized that it was possible. It was no longer impossible, it was possible. So they made the impossible possible. And once they made the impossible possible, they were doing things that once were impossible. This is happening over and over again in sports, especially extreme sports, where they're doing skydiving or river rafting or some of these things that they're actually surfing. Surfing is probably the best, an easy example to tell you. So with surfing, for example, for years and years and years, they only surfed a certain height of wave because everything else was impossible. And over the last 10 years, it's expanded exponentially. It's just grown like crazy. They went from 20-foot waves to hundreds of feet waves, and they're doing these, and they're doing things that were once thought impossible because they stepped into doing the impossible. And that's what I would love and like to invite you to do. Let me use an example here. Most of us are looking at the world through our vision, what we see, and we're saying, okay, we're looking at this world, this is what's possible, this is all that can be done, this is all I know how to do, so it's as much as is possible, okay? And that's like looking at the world like if you were colorblind. Pretty? Yeah, it looks gorgeous. It's a really, really pretty picture. But what if you weren't colorblind? You see how much prettier that is? How much more can be realized? How much more can be accomplished? if you don't limit based on what you know now, if you don't limit based on what you're seeing now. Let's give you another example. So here again, this is a good view. This is a great view, right? The world is teaching us that there's only certain things we can do. We're teaching ourselves that there's limits, that there are things that are impossible. And what I want to do instead is have you see in full color what can be accomplished. Nothing is impossible. We just don't yet know how. So why don't you start moving towards that? Why don't you start making that your goal? Why don't you start making that the things that you want to accomplish? And as you take 1 step and 2 steps and 3 steps, before you know it, you'll have run a mile. Before you know it, you'll finish that marathon. Before you know it, you've run 100 miles. Do you understand what we're saying here? The truth is, you can do what should be impossible just by taking the step after step after step and really stepping into this. So the point is, when you're writing your story, when you're trying to figure out exactly what you want to do, who you want to be, what you want to accomplish, and ultimately the influence and impact you have on the world, overcome ordinary. Don't put yourself in a box. Unleash your limitless potential and realize that there's nothing that you can't accomplish, and then do the impossible. You are extraordinary, and you deserve to live an extraordinary life. So let's rewrite your story so that you can reach your goals, live your dream, and enjoy an extraordinary life. I promise you, you're only scratching the surface with what you're able to accomplish if you just use those 3 simple steps. I'm Dr. Brandt Gibson, and this is Concordant Day 24. Do the impossible. I promise you, nothing is impossible. You just don't know how yet.